I don't even know what planet you're talking about right now.
I mean,
Like,
writing an
this
offer
is
with
so
conditions.
foreign. Conditions, forget about it. That's insane. And we're going to talk about that later with BC's new legislation.
Yep.
No, just like everybody's complaining about affordability, but it seems to me, at least for now, before us Ontarians come and fuck it all up for you,
Yeah, pretty
it's
much.
super affordable there. And not only that, the pricing is in line with wages, which is like,
Yep.
Yeah.
like
Which is
miracle.
why interest rates aren't a threat, right? Here, interest rates are such a big threat for us because everybody's stretched out, right? The cash at the end of the month is so small, you can't tolerate any fluctuation in interest rates. Where in Saskatchewan, it's a lot easier. 4%, no problem.
Here we are, Mr. TK. Good morning on a lovely Sunday in Canada.
Is it Sunday already?
Sunday
like
already.
Every day is Sunday, or maybe every day is Wednesday. But I feel like Sunday is not today. You know, today feels just like an ordinary day where I got lots of stuff to do, and I get to start the day by talking to you.
Why aren't you like bored from not having any showings and not selling anything and like no offers on any of your properties and all the prices just plummeting this week?
Absolutely bored to sin. I mean, I would say right now it's lower than a typical spring for sure. Like I think there's just so much fear in the market. So I was just thinking about that this morning, like going into April, what was it like last year? And I don't know how many deals I did in April last year, but it was a ton. And you know, it's not looking so bright, and this year, which is what it is. I mean, the market does what it wants to do, and you just have to always make sure that you're doing everything you can to help the people that need help, and you figure you make the most out of it. So things are a shaken, Darryl. They're a shaken. A lot of fear in the market. We're gonna talk about a lot of fear in the market.
There's a lot of confusion and fear.
What's gonna happen?
Is the party over? Is there no
What party?
more? What party?
I wasn't invited to this party.
Well, that's probably true, but the party that we've all been having, like, is there any more punch in the punch bowl? Is the punch just punch? No more spiked punch for the party? Is there still a party?
I think there's a party still going on, and I don't think that the party's going to end, but I think there's a lot less punch in that, a lot less spike in that punch.
A lot less punch
I'm
in the
confused
punch.
on this analogy.
Yes.
Yeah. So, this one's suitable probably for all ages, this punch now.
Well, we have, starting now, we have a wonderful show for you all. We have a wonderful guest waiting in the green room patiently. We have a whole bunch of real estate news going on in Canada, coast to coast Canada right now. Don't forget.
We are the Canadian Real Estate Show.
We are the Canadian Real Estate Show. There's a red button that they made red for us that you need to press right now. I believe it's somewhere around here. Hit it right now. Hit that like button, and please let us know what you think. Tell us how much you disagree with our opinions in the comments below. We will bring him in, Mr. Matthew Pfeifer, the Bald Prairie Realtor. He is just coming in. Hello, Matthew. Are you there?
Hey,
there he is. Whoa. Look at this setup. I wasn't expecting that.
How many? He's got a lot of different rooms he can record in at that location.
One room,
different angles.
It's actually only 2 walls. I'm in an unfinished basement right now, so the walls this way are unfinished.
Awesome.
Genius.
Well
Genius.
done.
That is
Absolutely
so COVID-esque.
So amazing. So we have Mr. Pfeifer here with us from Saskatchewan. He is a realtor from what we gather. He has a huge following on YouTube, which is wonderful. Hopefully, some of his fans will watch our show, and I'm sure some of ours watch his show. That's for sure. So,
Definitely.
welcome to the show.
Thanks
How
for
you
having me
doing?
on.
We were checking you out a while back. I know Darryl.
I've been
and
watching you for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been following you for a while, and we had some we learn, right? I mean, we're new to YouTube as of 2020, and obviously a lot of people are. And so we were always looking at who's doing it well, who is able to edit the videos properly and have the right content and all that stuff. And you were definitely on the list, and you're doing a bang up job for Canadian real estate, and that's why you're getting the results that you do. So kudos to you.
That. Thank you.
And so as we're getting more guests on the show, we've recently rebranded as the Canadian Real Estate Show instead of the center of Canada, which is Toronto. And so we want to make sure that we've got a really good broad audience and broad guest lineup. And I think you're perfect for the job today. So
awesome. Appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us early on a Sunday morning too.
With Mr. Pfeifer from the Bald Prairie Real Estate channel on YouTube. And I mean, we've never talked to anybody from Saskatchewan. I kind of joke about Saskatchewan fairly regularly that, are you real?
We are real people.
Are there really people
1.2 million of us.
Really? 1.2 million. That's not a lot of people for such a giant piece of land, is it?
No, it is very desolate at times. Yes.
Very desolate.
What's the population of Regina alone?
About 275,000.
Okay, so that's not bad.
10%.
Yeah, that's spread out. Yeah, that's spread out pretty well.
Yeah,
So
Regina's
how-
375. Saskatoon's about 300. So between those two cities, you got about half the population.
And so how the heck have prices been going up in Saskatchewan even? Like,
We went through 8 years of declining prices. We saw a huge boom 06, 07, 08, basically. And then they continued to head upwards as our economy was very strong. A lot of people moving into the province. And then from 2012, 2019, we saw prices drop in Regina about 25% as a citywide average. And then we've slowly been kind of getting our way out of that hole. We still have not fully recovered from that. Saskatoon has, Regina has not.
So prices can go down in Canada? I didn't think that was
go
possible.
down. I actually shot a video on that, but there is one area in Regina, one smaller segment, and it's a higher crime neighborhood. The prices dropped about 70% in that neighborhood.
Wow. From the peaks of 06, 07.
From the peak of 2012.
Peak of 2012, that's 70%.
Yeah, when I first got in the business, there was a condo I was selling, and the guy was pissed off because we were giving it away at 185, I think was the price. That same condo today sells for about 95.
Oh my gosh. Wow. What a great deal though. That's why people are going there. I mean, a lot of people from Ontario are moving to Saskatchewan and they're overpaying for real estate.
I'm starting to get the investor calls, guys going, okay, I can't cash flow in Ontario. I can't cash flow in the lower mainland. I want to come to Saskatchewan. So we're definitely getting those phone calls now.
There was a peak in 2012?
Yeah, that was when we peaked out.
That's when you guys peaked out.
Yeah,
different economies.
It's like a totally different country. What's the average days on market for you guys there?
You know what? That's really, really skewed. I think it's still about 40, but that's extremely
40
inaccurate.
days. Why? Is it less or more?
So it's very segmented right now. If you have a house for us, single family in the 400s, which is probably our hottest price point in the city, that average days on market is probably 4. Whereas maybe if you have an apartment style condo, that might be 90. So it's extremely, extremely segmented.
Yeah. So you really have two different markets happening all at the same time, right?
Because we still haven't fully recovered yet with our price drops. And yes, our economy is starting to get back on track, but it's not entirely firing on all cylinders yet. I would say it is getting much better. But there was a huge oversupply of condos. Absolutely. And those took a big beating. The less desirable neighborhoods for sure took a little bit of a beating, but the single family segment in our market, and so 400-ish buys you a very nice single family house in this city, and you can kind of take your pick of really good neighborhoods. So that stuff, yeah, you put it up on the market, it's gone right away.
I have a stupid question. What is the economy in Saskatchewan? Like, what is it that people are doing?
Commodities are a big thing. So,
So are you guys booming now with the wheat prices?
We are going to have a strong economy. I would expect, yes, wheat prices are up, oil prices are up, natural gas. Potash is a huge part of our
Potash,
life.
right?
Uranium is big. So pulse crops actually is one of the big ones too that a lot of people don't realize.
What's that?
That's lentils.
Lentils.
If you have ever had mustard with a hot dog, there's an extremely high chance that you got it from Saskatchewan. I believe 35% of the world's mustard supply comes out of Saskatchewan.
Okay. So yeah, a lot of agricultural commodities and stuff like that too, which makes sense. That's why it's very
mining
flat.
sector is strong with potash. You've got a forestry up north. So very commodity driven. And so when commodities are strong, our economy is strong. When commodities are weak, our economy is weak. And 06, 07, 08 was weird because everything went up in value at the same time. And then consecutively, we kind of got kicked in the teeth with each one of our economies, one after another. So obviously the energy markets took a beating. Our agriculture was hit in a few different segments. The pulse crop sector got crushed in 2015. Our biggest exporter is India. And because of a political snafu, we had a 50% tariff slapped on Canadian pulse crop exports to India. We lost a huge agriculture market, canola, which is a big product for us in China in, it would have been 2018, 2019, mainly because of geopolitics. So we got one after another. We lost a lot of our economies and they all got hit with big problems. And so that hurt our real estate and our economy.
What's the unemployment rate there?
Regina, I just checked as of last month was 4.7. So we're getting back. We're doing well.
Good. Yeah.
Wow.
Better than
so
Toronto.
hold on, tell me, what's a condo average price per square foot there?
If you want to buy a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom type place, you're probably talking between 190 and 225.
Purchase price.
Purchase price. Yeah. So that's probably going to be between 800 and 1,000 square feet.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So like $300 a square foot or something like that.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah.
And what about pre-construction? Is there any cranes in the sky?
Right now, new construction is very quiet because we went through a big boom. And then when the bottom fell out, it was like the Oprah Winfrey show with new construction. You were getting your yard landscaped and your fence. In fact, there was a time there was a builder giving away cars. I'm not kidding you.
Oh my gosh.
Stopped them and said, you can't give away cars. You can do a draw, but you can't give away a car with a purchase. And that took a long time to get sorted out. So we saw a really big lull. I bet you new construction starts drop 80 to 90%. It's starting to get going again. You can see the wheels in motion. You can see basements getting put in the ground. But of course, it's that lag time, right? By the time you decide you want to build something versus when it's actually occupied, there's a huge delay. So it's going to be a while before you see new construction really start to pick up. And that's one of the reasons resale has been very strong here.
How could they possibly build something in Regina when the prices are only a few $100,000 for a condo? It does not make, it's not cheaper to build in Regina, like much more than it is in Toronto.
They'd have to pay you to take the land for any metric to even make any sense.
It'd have to be like publicly funded.
We'll give you $40 million to buy our land so you can develop something on it.
Yeah, it's going to take a while. It is getting better. You know, you can slowly see things. In fact, I've been telling people, it to me feels like 03, 04, 05 here, when you could feel the momentum starting to build in the province. You could see the wheels, the economy starting to turn and things were looking bright. It feels just like that again here.
So, but we're having the exact opposite feeling here right now, aren't we, TK?
It's a little doom and gloom here. But in what area though, Darryl? Doesn't it feel like the economy is doing well over here? Doesn't it feel like everyone's like prospering?
Listen, I was at Dave and Buster's last night and it did not seem like anybody was hurting for money. That's for damn sure. That place was slamming.
Yeah.
And like, you have to wait 90 minutes to sit at a table.
Yeah.
There were tables everywhere. I don't understand. But anyways, like, no, but if you listen to the real estate news, then prices are coming off, rates are coming up, the market is cooling, everything's fucked. Now that,
oh my God, it's over. It's terrible. Yeah. Those headlines get people to read it, but I'm not buying it, put it that way.
I don't know. As you're talking, I'm sitting here going, this sounds like a lot of good reasons to start buying in Saskatchewan right now, right? Like
Absolutely. Yeah, me too. Right. You're getting a lot of investors, right? So you're saying that you're not getting a lot of calls from people saying, hey, I'm retiring and moving there, even though that's happening, but it's mostly investors, right?
We're seeing it's a little bit of everything. So our market for the last 2 years has been driven heavily by first-time home buyers and move-up buyers. I think much like many places in Canada.
From outside of the province?
From inside. So you've got people going, okay, I need more space. And so they're moving up to a bigger house. And now a lot of young couples, and that's a huge part of my market, has been going on and saying, I need more space. I'm tired of my little crappy apartment. I'm tired of living in mom and dad's basement. I'm going to go buy my own place. And because of our prices, where $300,000, for example, buys you a very nice house, not a condo, a house. It'll buy you a 60s to 70s era bungalow with a probably double detached garage, if not a single, good size yard, everything else like that. Finished basement, probably 3 bedrooms up, 2 bathrooms, that type of thing. For $300,000, well, your down payment's $15,000 to $20,000. So, a young couple can easily do that.
What jobs would they have though?
That's what I was wondering. What the heck are they working on?
Regina is a government town itself. We've got obviously the seat of the provincial government here. You've got a lot of federal jobs here. The RCMP base is here. So you've got a lot of federal and provincial and municipal employment opportunities. And then, of course, a lot of this is also the spin-off of the mining sectors, of the agriculture sectors, those types of things.
But who's buying? So these, I guess, the executives of the companies are buying the houses. Like,
anybody can buy a house.
Anybody can buy a house there. Yeah, what the fuck is going on, TK?
$50,000 a year, and they can afford to buy a house.
Is there stuff leaking out of my brain? My head's exploding here. I don't understand this. You can't even. Can you replace a house for those prices there? Like, can you? How much is that empty lot?
It's tough to find empty lots unless you're in the periphery, the subdivisions of the city. It would be tough to replace for sure. In some of that,
we gotta go, TK. We gotta take a trip out to Saskatchewan, man. This is fascinating.
It may be cold here. It may be a little quiet, but you know what? You can afford to go take a vacation somewhere. You can travel. You can not be house broke. I had a family that moved here from Langley, and of course, the price differences are substantially different in Langley versus here. And he was
California,
Langley, BC.
Oh, BC. Okay, yeah.
And him and I were chatting in the car one day, and he goes, I really like it here. The people are extremely friendly. There's lots of job opportunities. The average income is quite strong in Regina, and your house prices and cost of living is very low. And I said, yeah, I know. Don't tell your friends. I don't want them to know about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, secret. This is crazy.
Vacancies then. So that means that there's not a lot of vacancies right now in these apartments.
Vacancy rate is higher. We are probably about 6.5% to 7%. So yes, it is on the higher side. Okay. That has been trending down.
That's trending down. That's what I want to know. Because as an investor, that's what you're looking at. And CMHC underwrites deals in Saskatchewan hard.
Yes,
they do not take it lightly in Saskatchewan, Darryl. Like you're talking,
it's got to be like Calgary and Alberta, right?
No, Saskatchewan's they're very strict in their underwriting. High vacancy, high management costs, high everything. So they're really making sure that this deal is going to be safe for them to underwrite. It's
sorry. Do you feel like the economy like really starting to pick up? Like the wheat farmers must be like looking for people and like machinery and like it must be getting crazy there. Potash too. Like all that stuff must be where are they selling it to now?
Well, Saskatchewan provides two things to the world: food and energy. And we have learned very quickly that food and energy are two very important industries. I wish that all levels of government appreciated how important food and energy security were, but this is the situation we're in, so we got to work with it. But I do feel very confident with our economy. We're commodity based, so we still will have ups and downs. When things turn, and they will, we will see a downturn in our economy. It's happened in the past, it'll happen again.
You're a breath of fresh air.
Wow.
Hey? Like when we talk to the Toronto realtors, it's just doom and gloom every moment.
You should see my list of questions, and it's like none of them make sense for Saskatchewan at all. So I'm confused. So you did a video a little while ago saying like realtors hate this kind of a market, or I hate this kind of a market, and it sounds to me like you're not in the market that you're really talking about, because like, I don't even know what planet you're talking about right now.
I mean,
like,
writing an offer with conditions.
Foreign. Conditions, forget about it. That's insane. And we're going to talk about that later with BC's new legislation.
Yep.
No, just like everybody's complaining about affordability, but it seems to me, at least for now, before us Ontarians come and fuck it all up for you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Super affordable there. And not only that, the pricing is in line with wages, which is like,
which is
miracle.
why interest rates aren't a threat, right? Here, interest rates are such a big threat for us because everybody's stretched out, right? The cash at the end of the month is so small, you can't tolerate any fluctuation in interest rates, where in Saskatchewan, it's a lot easier. 4%, no problem.
What's the average income?
Average income, household income in the city of Regina is about 105, 110.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Very strong.
Yeah.
And so what's the percentage of renters versus ownership in Saskatchewan?
I wouldn't know that. I know that ownership is high for sure in Saskatchewan. I think I saw a number in Regina. It was about 75%, which would not surprise me.
Ownership?
That's higher than Ontario.
Yeah, or higher. It wouldn't surprise me, because A, affordability, and two, there's I'll call it a cultural kind of social thing. Ownership is important. Yeah. Obviously, a lot of people that originally founded this province coming here specifically because it was the only place they could buy and get farmland. Immigrant community, and that attachment to ownership is very important. The attachment to land is very important. In fact, you probably wouldn't even believe this if I told you. I'd have to show it to you. But if you buy a house in Regina, some of the older neighborhoods, you will get the mineral rights with the house. Now they're non-producing, but you will get attached to your title.
Sounds good.
Rights.
It feels good.
Where it's extremely unique.
No, but it's super important, actually. Think about it. Like here, our house is an economic driver because of the appreciation of the land value that goes up by a manipulated system, right? You guys, you actually derive real value from the land there, right? Like all the value comes out of the land, isn't in the land, right? If that makes any sense. That is a huge distinction. But now that I'm hearing more, I'm thinking it's not the best place for an investor, because who's going to rent the place that I buy there if they all want to buy and can afford to also?
Yeah, I mean,
we're not going to Saskatchewan anymore.
No, think about it. No, I'm going to go to bat here for Saskatchewan. You've got a high interprovincial net migration right now to Saskatchewan because people from BC and Ontario can't afford anywhere else. And they can't afford to build houses in Saskatchewan. They can't start building new places for people. And it's actually going to drive ownership down, the percentage of ownership down over time if the economy
only because they can't get a house.
Tell me if I'm wrong, Matthew. Tell me if I'm wrong. Because more and more people, young people, will be forced at the bottom to go into rentals. They're not building any more places. I think it's a great place for people to invest, and everything else that Matthew's talked about is also good, strong economics for the economy. So for me, I think it's a great place to invest.
This is like not the guys, that want to do the Burr model, for example. I think that's very challenging here because we don't have the crazy price appreciation that I feel is needed to make that model make sense. And Regina is maybe a little more unique than, say, Saskatoon. Regina, because it's so heavily government influenced, it tends to cut the tops, the peaks off, and the bottom of the troughs off. So a little more stable in terms of slow price appreciation. But I feel very strong about our economy in general and our province because, you look at the prices in Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, which is where 50% of new Canadians originally moved to. That becomes challenging to buy a house there. It becomes challenging to rent a house there. And Saskatchewan has tried very aggressively to attract new Canadians. And one of the big pitches is affordability. You can get here and you can get established fairly easily, and you can afford to buy a house, and you can have the rest of your family come. If maybe only one or two people had come here originally, you can bring in your extended family, those types of things, just again, because of our affordability.
There's one reason that new Canadians don't want to move to Saskatchewan.
It's cold.
Well, thank you. That's the number one.
Is it that much colder?
Colder.
Like, what's colder than here? Like, what does colder even feel like?
You ever felt minus 40?
I think we have, haven't we?
For like a month straight, Darryl?
Before wind chill? Is it like minus 40 before wind chill? Because we
Sometimes,
definitely feel minus 40 with a wind chill.
A
pretty
day or
regular.
two, yeah.
We'll get minus 50s with wind chill some days.
Oh my goodness
It's
gracious.
bad. There's days where you just stay home and
we don't get the Chinooks like Calgary gets, for example. It stays cold, especially like this year was a brutally cold winter. I bet we went the better part of 30 days in a row without seeing air temperatures above minus 30.
Think about that, Darryl.
So
think about that. What do you do for a month when it's minus 30 every single day or worse?
It's our own version of lockdown.
Yeah. What do you do?
I was going to say, you must have to like stay at home for a month.
You get used to it. Everybody goes to work. The buses still run. Kids go to school. You just get used to it.
So if you're in the grain or wheat or like one of these crop industries, what do you do during that time when you can't grow crops?
That's your downtime. So your spring, summer, fall are extremely busy. Like we'll start seeding here fairly quickly once everything warms up. We're, I don't know, probably 30 to 45 days away from starting to seed. And that's an extremely compressed, busy time for them. It's not uncommon. You look out in the field at 10 o'clock at night and during harvest time, and they're still cutting stuff down.
And
so what? It's like they're teachers in the off seasons. They made enough money the rest of the
farmers.
year.
That's what they do. Yeah, they have that seasonal work, right?
TK.
They knit sweaters or something, Darryl.
TK. I'm Jewish. What do I know?
We have farmers all over. There's farmers everywhere, right?
But I'm asking, what the hell do they do in the off season?
Now, farming is only about 10% of our economy, give or take. It's of our GDP. It's about 10%. Mm-hmm. It's not like everybody farms.
So how is interest rates? Okay, let's get back onto our real estate sector.
Yeah.
Okay, so interest rates, you guys, interest rates are going up, right?
Yep.
How do you feel about that? What is your take on the rising interest rates, which are going up? We all know that.
Yep. I think for the guy who says, I need to buy a house because I need it, I've got an expanding family, I've made the decision it's better for my livelihood that I buy a house. I don't think it changes their mind in terms of, oh my God, I'm not going to buy a house now, or I can't afford a house. Stress test started qualifying on 5.25 anyway. So it's not like they can't afford. If they were qualified 30 days ago, they're still qualified today. Mm-hmm. But obviously the investor market, that starts to change things for them, because now your cash flow equation changes a whole bunch. So yeah, I think it doesn't impact those guys a lot. The guys that are just buying for their families, I think if anything, they might go, okay, instead of spending $350, I'm going to spend $300 now instead.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is going for cash flow, or even just to be able to, whatever your outlook is for the investment, having that higher interest rate, which went from, I'm dealing with one guy right now where he was making an offer on a property last year. He was able to get a sub 2% mortgage rate. And now it's going to be closer to 4%, give or take.
Yep. So that changes that cash flow equation.
Yes, doubling. So when I'm saying, how come you don't want to pay more money or as much money as you did last year? The market's up. He says it doesn't matter. He says the interest rates have gone up. So the market is not, tied to the interest rate in the principal residence market, the end user market, as much as it is in the investor market.
But it's very different in Saskatchewan than Toronto, because in Toronto you're borrowing $1 million.
Yep.
In Saskatchewan, it sounds like maybe you're borrowing $250, right? And
I looked at it with my house. Every quarter point cost me $560. I'm on variable, $560 a year. I don't care about $560 in a year. Obviously, it's not going to change my life. And even if that goes up 5 times this year, okay, $2,500 for the year. That's not going to make me not be able to afford my house in any way, shape, or form.
Here in Toronto, you're adding $500 a month.
Yeah. So yeah, I think, and for a guy who's owner occupied, they're just, they want to raise their family, have another kid. I don't think it dramatically changes. Yes, of course, it's going to make them think about it. They're going to maybe change their price point. But if you're having your third kid and you only have a 2-bedroom house, you're going to buy a bigger house. You just might change the neighborhood or the price point.
Now, I think just based on everything you said today, so the whole point of the Bank of Canada raising interest rates is to cool inflation. That's their goal.
Yeah,
it's actually going to work in their favor to cool the housing market, because that's part of the CPI, right? So when they look at how can I lower the official inflation rate by making housing more affordable? It actually helps them. And so that it looks like they're doing their job a lot better, right? So interest rates, we know, need to go up. It's going to prevent us from having inflation run out of control. There's a lot of parts of the economy and population where inflation really affects people negatively. You guys are commodity based in Saskatchewan, right?
Yep.
So inflation right now is helping. It's a great thing.
Yeah, sure. It brings in more revenues because of our commodities, but at the same time, you look how much fuel costs and taxation, which is hurting us. You look at, for example, if you got to dry grain this fall because you had a wet harvest, how many tens of thousands of dollars they're going to spend in drying their grain just because of taxes. It starts making business unaffordable. I know farmers that spent $15,000 and $20,000 just in carbon tax to dry grain. Well, if they don't dry it, they can't sell it. It's no good. They need to do that. And these additional costs are killing them.
Plus, on top, I mean, all of us in real estate, that's all we think about is mortgages. But the Bank of Canada rate affects loans for businesses as well. So all of these guys have to gear up on their machinery and maybe need a loan to help keep payroll going. And those rates are up and their line of credits are going up. Like it definitely affects the bottom line considerably. Now,
it's a silent killer.
It's a silent killer. So what I want to just kind of move on to right now, because it's Saskatchewan based, and I think maybe interest rates have an effect on it. I don't know. You must have heard this story about the company that just went belly up recently here. 500 homes affected, 10 million stolen from investors, Epic Alliance. So what effect, maybe you want to talk about it, give a little background, and then maybe tell us what effect it's having on the market right now. But one of my questions to you and to everybody out there is like, how the hell did a 1/4 point first raise from the Bank of Canada affect this company? Like, it can't possibly be that, in my opinion.
That's not what it was.
Yeah, tell me what's going on here.
Okay, so let's talk quickly about what it was now. I've also got to be very careful what I say because this is all going through the courts right now. Not everything is out, and you got to be careful what you say because, again, we're trying this in court in some cases here. Basically, what Epic Alliance did was they would go to an investor and say, give us $100,000 to buy a house. We will buy a house in predominantly in the tougher neighborhoods of Saskatoon. That's where they operate, with Saskatoon. They would buy this house for $100,000. They would say in 6 months, 8 months, I'll give you a 12% return. We're going to take your money to buy this house. They would then fix it up. Then they would flip it out to another pool of investors. So investor A spent his $100,000, got his 15% back. Yeah, that's the types of houses they were buying. Get his 15% back. They would then do a little bit of renovations to it. And essentially, they would then flip it back out to another pool of investors. So if they made 20% of the money, they would keep the difference, give the 15% to the first investor. The second investor, they would sell it to them, but as well, that investor had to go through their hassle-free lender or landlord program, and they would lease it, as an Epic Alliance would lease it from that investor with guaranteed monthly returns. So, okay, we'll guarantee you $1,200 a month in rent, guaranteed. Whether Epic Alliance made money or not.
Flag right there.
So what ended up happening was a couple of things. One, they didn't always do as much renovation as was necessarily said that was done. It was really interesting that no matter what, there was always an appraisal and evaluation done on the house after the renovations were done. And it always was more than the return, what was promised. So, okay, sounds a little sketchy to begin with. At one point, though, really what killed them was they had a 50% vacancy rate. I don't know a single business that can run on 50% vacancy rates. Yeah. And so it had nothing to do with interest rates. This company was in trouble long before interest rates changed. They guaranteed rents and they had too high a vacancy. Their operating costs were too high and the thing just fell apart.
You see, nobody wants to rent, but there was nobody that wanted to rent, obviously. There was no demand were they not even trying?
No, they couldn't rent them because they weren't fixed up. They weren't in the condition to rent them. They weren't.
I thought they were supposed to fix them up
because taking money out of the business. This is in another situation. I'm not talking about this particular company, but if a company was running a Ponzi scheme, if a company was, not this company.
Yep.
And they took that money that they were collecting from other investors, right? Instead of funding the actual homes that they should be renovating and supporting and all that kind of stuff, they turn it into more returns for other investors instead, so they can bring in more investors, because everyone says, yeah, I'm getting my returns, everything's great, right? And so you keep on pushing the envelope as far as you can. And renovating the houses would be in that type of situation, if that was going on. Renovating
needless
the
cost
would work against your plan, right? So
they also specialized in very high crime, low value neighborhoods that are in themselves undesirable and prone to having high upkeep and maintenance costs. So that is what really hurt them.
Put that on the business card. I specialize in high crime, undesirable neighborhoods.
Yeah, if you look at where they,
you know what, people will invest.
Yes, people will definitely invest. Hey,
guaranteed returns, right? If you guarantee returns, how could you not? You know,
they were great on the sales side.
They had $3 million in promissory notes out.
Yeah, they were great on the sales side. They were able to bring in investors. This is very common. There's a lot of, we've had a guy on the show who's, teaches this as a course. There's a lot of great reputable investors who use promissory notes and others, sometimes secured funds and different things that are great, and they run a great business, but you got to do your due diligence. So if you're listening to the show and you want to invest with somebody, absolutely don't shy away, because there's tons of LP agreements that you can get in with great investors who know what they're doing. There's a ton of people out there who know their stuff, but you have to really peel the onion and understand what it is exactly. And if it sounds too good to be true, if it's guaranteed, if the returns are way higher than everybody else, most likely it's too good to be true. So,
and I'm imagining that they weren't like cleared by any like authoritative. Yeah, like there was no oversight on this company, right? This is just,
it actually had a cease order and continued to trade.
Yeah, exactly.
And last time I checked, judges really don't like it when you go against orders like that.
No.
Yeah, pretty consistent in the legal system, right? Yeah.
That's amazing that they could amass 500 homes though before.
I actually think it was 700.
Was it more than reported? Wow. Wow.
So here's my question, and this is the main thing here, is what do you think this will do to the market in Saskatoon? Is this a big enough? Because a lot of these are owned by out of province investors. So it's not like they're going to go power of sale, right? These people they own the homes for $100,000, whatever. They'll just have to hang on to them, or, maybe they'll sell them. But is there going to be a bunch of listings that flood the market? Is this going to cause any major downturn?
What's a normal amount of inventory on the market there?
I'll pull out my numbers right now and I can tell you. But Saskatoon, typically at this time of year, so I'm just actually doing my numbers from my monthly update, they should see somewhere in the neighborhood of about 1,800 listings on the market. I haven't seen, actually, here we go. I got Saskatoon's numbers. I got it filled in. They should have 1,650 listings. They got 980 right now.
Whoa. So
okay.
Listings
so even if all of them come to the market, it just brings
it
to a normal month.
Yeah. And that's going to be, even if all of them did, it's going to be very focused on that neighborhood, and B, that price point. For those hot markets, again, for us, 400-ish is very, very attractive and very hot right now. There's no impact, because a guy looking at that house ain't looking at the $100,000 house. So it is going to have zero impact.
Apparently nobody's looking for those houses. That's why they bought them all.
What a craziness. I can't even believe it. So, okay. So like the next article I wanted to bring up was that BC policy, but I'm first wondering, does anybody make a firm offer in Saskatchewan?
I'm trying to think of the last time I wrote an unconditional offer. I've been in the business for 12 years. And I think the answer to that is zero. I'm not even kidding. Even, like the other day, I was competing against 9 other offers, which us is a lot. That's a lot of offers for us. Full conditions, financing, inspections, everything like that, 14 days. So
I mean, it's a good thing. It's shocking to us, right? Because we're the wild east, I guess we should call it, but we're the wild, wild kingdom. But
it happens here though, like in waves, right? Like sometimes there's periods where there isn't firm offers. I mean, that's not ridiculous. Sometimes there's, the need for
only firm offers. Like I'm talking like
for a long time now.
The most I think I had in the last 2 years would have been like 28 offers or something like that on the property, all firm.
Yep.
So this is weird here. What they're introducing, it's a cooling period, which they have not determined the length of.
They got no details on. I tried to do some research on it yesterday, and I couldn't get any details.
Give us your thoughts. Give us your thoughts. Let's
hold on. Let me just give the background. So there's a cooling off period, and then there's a backing out period. Which, I mean, this is not a firm offer anymore, right?
Nope.
So this changes the entire dynamic of the purchase process. This is not just okay, like why wouldn't you go give out a firm offer at the highest price and see what happens, over the next 5 to 7 days if there is no penalty? But they're talking also about there being some kind of a penalty for backing out of the deal. So,
all right, let's let Matthew give us some thoughts here. Okay.
Yeah, I think the devil's going to be in the details on this one. If, for example, if it's optional, if a buyer can waive it, well, we haven't really done anything because everybody's just going to waive it anyways. What is the cost to back out? How long is the time frame?
Right, waiving it, you can waive it instantly.
Yeah, so it's going to be what happens in the details here. I would almost rather it be, instead of a cooling off period, I don't know, maybe we'll call it a warming up period, but say 14 days prior to all offers being in, that's when you're able to go do your inspections, all that kind of stuff. Now, that also doesn't give you the opportunity to secure financing. So it's not a perfect solution, but then you're not tying up a property for 14 days that maybe you're not really serious about buying. At the end of the day, all of this is Band-Aid solutions for the bigger problem, and that is far more demand than supply. And you can put as many Band-Aids on it as you want. You're not solving the problem.
No, we are definitely not solving. I've put it out there a few times that it's not even possible to solve this problem. What do you think? Is there a problem in Saskatchewan?
Well, obviously we still have, even with very strong demand, everybody is writing, for the most part, conditional offers because yes, our market is strong. Yes, we're seeing segments that are very hot, but there still is enough supply versus demand that a buyer can do so, and the seller has to accept that is the way business is going to be done. Again, do unconditional offers happen? Yes, they do. Do I see them as a regular occurrence? No, I haven't written one myself, I don't think, in a decade, or my entire career. And even in multiple offers that I'm writing, which is the vast majority of my offers, are, I'd say probably 85% of my business is multiple offers, we're still writing full conditions on it. So
good. Yeah,
there's enough.
It doesn't affect. Yeah, it's a provincial policy, so it's not going to be something that would affect Saskatchewan. They definitely don't need it. BC's always seemed to be the leader in these weird little things.
They brought test them out there.
Foreign buyer tax before. They've had all these different things, because this is my theory on it, and then I want to dive into some of the points. This is my theory, and I might be wrong. There's a lot more foreign investment in BC than there is in other provinces.
100%.
And I think that the people who are in the provincial power are influenced by the locals a lot easier, and they are trying to find ways to make it easier for locals to buy real estate. So they're always coming up with these ways to try to basically protect the people who are, native or are, long-term Canadians, not the new Canadians or the foreign investors and stuff like that too. I feel like that's heavily involved here, right?
And we've got 3 levels of government that each control a part of the process, that none of them communicate effectively, and in many ways have 3 differing goals of what they want to achieve and what's put forward to them from the voters to achieve. The federal government's obviously much more focused on growth and national policy versus the provincial and municipal governments. And at the end of the day, the municipal governments control, for the most part, zoning laws and are much more micro focused, whereas you've got a federal government that's macro focused. And they've talked about some of the things they want to do at the federal level, and yet that's provincial legislation. So how are you as a federal government going to go in and make all these policy changes when it's provincial jurisdiction? It's very confusing to me.
Yeah. This is nothing other than some political snafu, and there's going to be some dancing around whatever it is that they're going to do here to make this sound a lot better than it is. Like,
big announcement, low substance. Yeah, typical.
Exactly. So first of all, how are they going to allow people, like, can you waive the legislation? Can you just say, look, I choose not to go within the act of da. So now it's completely defeated. It makes no sense whatsoever.
If it becomes optional, it's useless.
Exactly. 2, if the penalty is too small, then buyers just go and write as many offers as they want, unconditional, and they tie up all these properties and decide the ones that they want. If the penalty is too big, then a normal buyer with good intent who just wants to do a home inspection and wants to buy the property firm, he doesn't care, he loves the property, he now has to take the risk, because when he goes and does the property, let's say there's a legitimate issue, he can't get financing or the home inspection fails, right? Yep. So now all of a sudden he's like, do I really want to make an offer on that property because I got to pay 10 grand if the home inspection doesn't come back? So now it hinders that process as well, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. There's no perfect solution to this. And I did a video on this talking about kind of 3 different models of solutions, and I don't like any of them perfectly. I think they all have merits to them, but yeah, we're in this problem of no solution is perfect. At the end of the day, in my mind, a perfect solution is where there is enough market balance that we're going to conduct business where people will make offers, and there will be 10 or 14 days to go through and do your inspections. And if you find something, you're going to try to negotiate on that if you still want to buy the house. And if you don't want to buy the house, you're going to walk away and you're going to buy something else.
I think it was easier when they were just allowed to take their sword out of its sheath and cut the guy's head off for being a dick.
For ripping them off.
Right?
I mean, we got to go
ripping
back to
them
that.
off. We need to go back to the old
legal
sword system.
The legal term
the
is
thing,
caveat emptor, right? Buyer beware.
You
And
look
there
at,
are.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you're the guest. Go ahead.
You look at Ontario and Vancouver, let's take Toronto and Vancouver specifically. There is foreign buyer taxes, there's land transfer taxes, there's I'll call them ticky-tack solutions.
Hold on, there's no land transfer tax in Saskatchewan?
0.
And their government survives without the extra income?
Sorry, technically there's a land title, there's a registration fee. I think it's $500. It's so little, I actually don't know how much it is. So yes, there's no land transfer tax in Saskatchewan. There's also no land transfer tax in Alberta and Manitoba and good chunks of the Maritimes as well. So just an interesting little tidbit there. But
what a rate!
We don't have any of these taxes. We don't have any of, I'll call them ticky-tack proposals for legislation and rules and things like that. And yet real estate continues. We have some of the most affordable prices in the country, or the most affordable prices. Even in a hot market, we're still writing fully conditional offers and things like that. To me, it boils down to such a simple concept: supply and demand. We are far more balanced than the rest of the country, even though we're hot. And so as such, business and the market functions relatively normally.
I love Saskatchewan. It sounds like such a great
place. To love. We need to change these pictures in the background. Something has to be Saskatchewan.
This is the perfect scenario. You're in Ontario. You've made a gazillion % return on your initial investment from buying the house in the early 80s, right?
Yep. Or 6 months ago.
That too.
You buy a place in Florida, right? Or somewhere warm that you enjoy. You move to Saskatchewan.
Yep.
You live in Saskatchewan 9 months of the year. You spend 3 months in a warmer climate. You live a perfect life. Follow me for more life solutions.
Look at this.
I'll give you the example of a client who moved in from the West Coast. They took a job here. They gave me their budget, and it was going to be well in excess of what they needed. So they said, we'd prefer not to spend more than 700. I think maybe it was 750.
And you're like, do you want 1 or 2 houses?
And I kind of chuckled at them. I said, I don't think you're going to need to spend that much, guys. What you have described, I think we can find for between $500,000 and $600,000. And they laughed at me. I actually don't think they believed me when I said that. And I said, well, come on out, take a flight out here. I'll drive around. I'll show you what's up. And we're driving around. They go, those must be $1 million. I'm like, no, probably 600 or 700, that type of thing. End of the story. They bought a brand new bungalow in a bedroom community of Regina. They spent a little over $500,000 for about a 1,500 square foot bungalow with a triple attached garage, no finished yard, no finished basement, but that was actually appealing to them because they could do what they wanted. Their house that they sold in BC sold for twice that. So they were able to walk in and buy a brand new house in cash and have all the money in the world to finish the basement, the yard, and go on a trip.
And mineral rights.
No, you wouldn't get mineral rights out there.
God damn it. Okay.
We don't have bedroom communities in the GTA, right? It's like there's just so much industrialization. It means there's not many jobs there. People just live there and they travel in for work, right?
Yeah. So
I am so blown away by the gigantic difference in the same country.
Yep.
But I guess that's like in the Midwest of the United States compared to like
Vancouver and Toronto out of the equation. Let's just pretend those two cities don't exist. And I get that's a substantial part of the population. It's also not the center of the universe as much as people like Toronto like to think it is. Drop those two cities out and the benchmark price in Canada, I believe, drops $250,000.
It drops 250.
Drops $250,000.
Drops to 250.
Yeah. So from going from 750 to about $500,000.
Oh, okay. In total. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I would have thought it was more.
No. Yeah. You pretend those two cities. And again, I get it. That's a large percent of the population. What's the GTA? 6-7 million, and Vancouver, lower mainland's probably 3. So, you're talking 8 to 10 million people of a country of 37. That's a substantial number of people, but it's also not most of the country. There's a majority that
take out BC and Ontario though.
Oh yeah. It's a totally different ballpark. Are you talking
now you're like 250 average?
I don't know if it go that low. I bet you before
400. Yeah. Okay. Because even on Ontario, the places like London and Kingston and Barrie, Niagara, like these places were always like, honestly, you might as well move to Saskatchewan.
Yep.
Right. Like at one point, right. It was that. And now they are ridiculous. It is crazy. We've seen an increase in those price points in some areas over 100%. Some of the areas have doubled in the last 2 years.
When I talk to people, and a lot of people call me and say they're looking to buy in different centers, and they talk about, their incomes. And then I talk to agents and say, okay, I've got a buyer that's interested in buying in your area and here's their budget. And they have to tell me they can't buy anything, or they're going to get very little, or they're not going to get what they want. And it hurts because I think about that and go, what they could buy here, is almost the sky's the limit for the most part. And so I think that's part of also it skews. I know it does. It skews my outlook and opinion on real estate because I'm from a province where essentially anybody with a reasonable income, and for sure a couple with a reasonable income, can buy a pretty nice house and they can get started. Are they going to buy the big monster mansion? No, but they can buy a house, not just a condo, a house, and start to raise their family, build some equity, live in it for 5 to 10 years, sell it, and get to the bigger house.
So I put out a question to Twitter a couple of days ago.
Yep.
And I got some interesting responses. So the question is you're all asking for affordable housing. What is affordable? Somebody give me a target. Right? What is actually affordable? And some fairly astute people did some math and they came up with, based on incomes, a price point of like $300,000-400,000.
Yep.
And it seems to me that I guess people in Saskatchewan aren't sitting there crying about an affordability crisis at the moment. Right. No. So I think the answer to my question is not a number. It is a place.
Yep.
Right.
Because don't tell anybody. Keep it a secret, please.
Well, but you know what? Well, I guess maybe Saskatchewan doesn't want more. Maybe they don't have the same diseases we have in Ontario of the need for more of everything. But I mean, I think
that big trucks in Saskatchewan.
No, but people are going to go there and they're going to need more people there to keep up with world demand on all the stuff that they supply because like, what else is there right now? Right?
It's people have always told me or asked me, I guess is better. Well, don't you want more people to come? You're going to sell more houses and you make more money. Sure, I will. I would rather work in a market that is slightly appreciating and in a market where anybody who really wants to buy a house, for the most part can. If you've got a reasonable job and you've got the ability to save some money for a down payment, and I look at it as to buy a house here, if you can save $15,000 to $20,000, and you've got a decent income, you can buy a house. And I like that because if you want to talk pure just selfishly, if that house goes up 10%, I make 10% more. Great. If 2 people can buy houses, I make twice as much money. I would much rather that. If you want to talk purely financially selfish. I want two people to buy houses versus one. And so I like it in our market where, a young couple, like the couple I just helped, wife is a nurse, husband is still finishing school. They go and buy themselves a $320,000 house. Great little property. Absolutely love this house. And that's on one person's salary.
Yeah, that's great. Right.
Amazing,
and the salaries,
amazing.
from my understanding, limited understanding, but if you were a nurse and you were working in Ontario and a nurse working in Saskatchewan, you would make less money in Saskatchewan. But
what's a nurse make there?
Well, I'm assuming it's a small amount, but just for my example, you would pay 5 times more for housing, right? Rent would be double. Yeah. But you're going to make maybe 10 or 15% less money income wise. What does a nurse make? Darryl, what would you say a nurse makes? I'd say they'd start in the 60 to 70,000 and the experienced ones are making 90.
We'd be higher probably for the most part. You probably started about 70, and a nurse with about 4 to 5 years under their belt will probably, with a little bit of overtime, be over $100,000.
It's a supply demand thing.
It's probably
too.
The same. I don't really know what I'm talking about. That's probably
our nurses
similar.
are paid well,
so
and so that's maybe a bad example. My wife's a nurse, that's why I know the income's there. But yes, like a position like that, even if they make slightly less in Saskatchewan.
Teachers. What about teachers? I know teachers. So what are teachers making?
Teacher here, you know what? I probably don't know that as well. I bet you're going to start at about 50, and you're probably going to touch full, long-term teacher might get into the 90s. I could be incorrect on that, but
it's the same as ours.
50 and 80, somewhere in there.
Yeah, long-term, you're going to be making 90s. You'll potentially get into $100,000 with inflation increases and all that stuff, and you're starting around 50. So yeah.
There's no way that
I'm wrong.
But there's no way that it isn't a better lifestyle, or at least a better, a more affordable lifestyle out there. There's zero doubt. Like, your money's going twice as far out there, if not twice as far, like 90%. Now, okay.
Yeah.
I think this is a great way to end the show. We're running out of time. There's been a wonderful conversation. No, this is amazing. So, I think what I would like to ask you both, and I imagine very different answers from where you both work. What does a Canadian real estate market crash actually look like?
Take it away.
What does it look like from the Saskatchewan perspective? Because it's got to be different than Toronto.
I have seen it, is what I like to say. Prices, again, citywide went down 25%. Very deceiving. We saw much higher levels of depreciation versus other areas. What does it look like?
25% is the reduction in price, though, is what you're saying?
That was the citywide average. But I lived it. I know what it's like to have to go into somebody's house and tell them, you're going to lose money on this house and you sell it. You're going to have to write a check to sell your house. Not just the write the check to, pay your fees, but you're going to have to spend more money than what your mortgage is to walk away from the house. And I've seen numbers, $50,000, $60,000 to sell their house, to lose that kind of money. I've seen what it does to economy. A lot of people I get it in my comment section. I want house prices to crash so I can afford to buy a house. And my response is always, I hope you're very secure in your job, because you don't see real estate prices crash without a significant economic impact. Yeah. And you're going to see significant job losses. You're going to see it be very difficult to make ends meet. It's not all of a sudden that prices will drop 50% and, nothing changed in my life and I can go buy a house now. It's not the way it works. It's painful. It is absolutely painful to go through that. So do I want to see that? No, I do not, because I know how much of an impact that has on people's lives, where a family cannot afford to move into a bigger house, even though they've got 3 kids now, because they'll have to write a check of $50,000 and then save a down payment for the next house.
And so what year was this in, the 25% reduction in price?
That took 8 years, from 2012.
What year is it? 2012. And you're just coming out of it now.
We're not fully out of it. If you bought in 2012 in Regina, you still have not fully recovered. Now it's very close. Saskatoon is ahead now. And again, there's not many people that absolutely bought at the peak, and 2019 was the bottom. So if you bought exactly at that time and sold exactly at that time, okay, yeah, you took a beating. Outside of that, it's obviously been shrinking every single day since then.
And I echo a lot of that stuff too, that Matthew said. So the difference between a crash and a correction, I think correction is, inevitable. It's always, the markets are always going to correct. We're always going to see things start to fall back onto, trends that we've set over the last 5, 10, 15, 25 years. So I believe that there's always a correction in sight, every time that we, sell more houses, because that's just how markets work all the time. But a crash. Which is like 40, 50% or more, like, these type of things, the only way that's going to happen is if you've got mass power sales, you've got mass bankruptcies, everybody's just broke. In 89, when we had the crash here, I'm not sure how that impacted everywhere in Canada, but I know in Toronto, we had a lot of power sales. 2008 in the States, a lot of power sales. This is the only way that people are going to be willing, because otherwise people are very financially secure right now. And why the heck would they want to sell their home for 50% less than they could have got? They'll just stay. They're not going to move. So unless they're bankrupt and the power sales have taken over the banks, and now you got all these power sales and the banks are just trying to recuperate their funds, they're writing off losses to get rid of them, then people have to compete with those power sales. That drives prices. That's not happening anytime soon. It's not happening, based on unemployment, based on savings rates, based on delinquencies, based on bankruptcies. All those numbers are telling us that people are actually very financially secure right now. Interest rates will go up. There'll be some people who overpaid. There'll be some sort of correction now with the higher lending policies and everything else too. But crash isn't coming. And if it did happen, we got bigger issues like Matthew's talking about than housing prices.
Yeah, very much so.
What do you think, Darryl?
I don't feel like I got answers, but thank you for your opinions. I appreciate it. I mean, I guess what you're saying is there's no way that there is going to be a crash. That's what I'm hearing. I don't know if that's what you said, because it was very convoluted and gray, but like 25%, maybe in Saskatchewan, 25%, that's tough because that takes a long time. But here that was a month ago, 4 months ago.
We had a 15% correction, Matthew, in 2017 when they had that foreign buyers tax come in, and there were some other measures that were introduced and stress tested and federally. And that was a 15% correction. It was short-lived. And, some areas barely were affected. Other areas took about 2.5, 3 years to get back. Well, probably pandemic time in heavily foreign interested areas, like north of our city. But, other than that, it's a crash is just really, 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 really hard to paint that picture that we're going to start seeing some major issues.
Kind of an interesting number, because that's typically when you see corrections 2 years to 3 years down the road, we're back on track of where we were. So for ours, that protracted 8-year decline was very much an exception to the rule. And that was difficult to work in that environment and have to go through that versus, if you bought at the absolute peak and you sold the absolute trough 2 years later, that would be challenging. Outside of that, most people, I don't know if you wouldn't notice the blip in the road, but it wouldn't be as impactful.
Yeah. The 1989 crash was 12 years to get back.
Yeah, that was a long one. And that was a long protracted, national recession. It wasn't like it was just a small regionalized thing. It was a significant, the country was in a very difficult financial position at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
well, I think money works very differently now. And I think markets react very differently now. And they're much more liquid with like instant transfers and all of that kind of stuff. So I think it's going to be a really interesting time for everybody on the planet, every economy right now. I can't imagine a world where Saskatchewan doesn't boom like crazy in the coming years. Like, I think you guys are going to have some crazy appreciation in prices coming, because it sounds to me like that's the answer to most people's problems. And especially the level of immigrants that we bring in, their skill and education level. Like, how do you afford $1 million place in Toronto? Like, or how do you afford even like a basement apartment for $1,600 a month? And where the hell do you even work around here? Like, it sounds to me like there's every solution under the sun in warm, sunny, beautiful Saskatchewan.
Except for the sun.
Except for the sun.
3 months of the year.
It is very sunny, actually. Even when it's -40, it will be very sunny.
Okay.
Well, there you go. There's the postcard.
So Matthew, let's just do a quick little plug for you. So Bald Prairie Real Estate YouTube channel. Check it out. You got lots of subs. You got lots of videos. You're updating regularly. Where else can people find you?
So you can find me on Instagram, and I'm not a big social media guy, but I think it's Matthew_Pfeifer_real estate is my Instagram handle. I have the Bald Prairie Real Estate Facebook page, which I'm not as very active on it, but Instagram and YouTube, I reach out to all of anybody who comments. I basically respond to every single comment on that channel. So that's a good way to get a hold of me. I can shoot you guys my contact information as well, and you guys could put it in the description if people want to shoot me an email or give me a call type of thing.
Awesome.
Great
We're
channel,
very
great
thankful to have you.
information. Very professional. He knows a lot about real estate, doesn't he?
I've been doing it for a while.
Great show for the
Great to
listeners
meet
today.
you. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Maybe
Thanks
we'll
for
do this
having me on.
again soon. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd love to be on again.
Great to meet you.